Hello and welcome to Those Theme Thoughts. Today we are focusing on music, but not just any music, jazz. And not just jazz, the birth of jazz. The birth of jazz is broken through racial barriers and was birthed through African communities in New Orleans. Jazz is a complex mix of swing, blues notes, and chords, creating a harmony of European and African rhythms. This form of music and its mixed rhythms would influence modern music such as rock, R&B, gospel, hip hop, and pop, to name a few. Through jazz, people of different races have been joined together behind a common interest in music. I like listening to jazz when I'm studying and trying to relax, but it all started when people weren't so relaxed. In a slave trade center in New Orleans, Code Noir passed in 1724 allowed slaves to rest on Sunday. These people would congregate on these days in a place known as Congo Square. Congo Square would be full of music, dancing, and religious ceremonies. This next show of music shows some of the mixed rhythms. It is closer to a form of blues, but uses some jazz techniques. Now the brothers done come from around the way. When we play our drums, we say, "Ooh, nah, Now I want you, and you over there to know we come with peace and love from Congo Square." Years before, in 1803, the Louisiana Purchase brought Spanish and French, which, through syncretism, or merging of cultures, mixed their music with the slaves' music. Many people have a background in jazz from older family members today, such as those related to a man that greatly influenced jazz's birth and impact. This man, Charles, or Buddy Bolden, created a new point in jazz music. Buddy Bolden invented that beat that we call the Big Four, that skip on the fourth beat, or so legend has it. The Big Four is when you accent the second, fourth beat of a march. In a straight march, you'll be going doom-ch, 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 doom-ch. With the Big Four, you go doom-ch, 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 ka-doom, ch, doom-ch, doom-ch, ka-doom. So on that fourth beat, the drum and the cymbal hit together. And that point is where jazz music started to really get its lilt. Before the trumpets, they were playing. But now I have the Big Four. Boom, 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 boom. So when I phrase it, I'm gonna make it sound like me, and I'm gonna play with another entire feeling and groove, and use all the different growls and shouts and cries. So now it becomes. You're playing to make it sound not like trumpet, but like Buddy Bolden. Now you're also listening to the clarinet. So the clarinet might play a little something, and you have to stop playing. So you might say, Thanks to Mr. Marsalis for that rendition of the Big Four created by Buddy Bolden. The typical jazz band would be a little something like the drummers all the way in the back of the band, then the cornet, trombone, clarinet, and then the piano up front, so it can be heard. Just a little fun fact about jazz. It used to be spelled with two S's because there was no consistent way of spelling it. Crazy, right? Jazz has mostly been played mainly in New Orleans by black musicians. Most of the country has never heard jazz played, nor heard of jazz. The Dixieland Jazz Band created the first recorded sound of jazz. Now, what is the Dixieland Jazz Band, you might be thinking? The Dixieland Jazz Band is an all white band from New Orleans, which, when they played their jazz, it started to spread throughout the country. This sound was created mostly by black musicians. When I say this sound, I mean jazz. Was created by mostly black musicians, but it was spread from the white band in New Orleans. Well, now that the information tells us that jazz started in New Orleans, I think we should revisit the question, what is jazz? But I also think we should pass this question over to.
My name is Derek Williams. I've been a band director for quite some time now. I think this is my 12th year teaching. I've taught in Florida, I've taught in California. I come from a musical family. My dad was actually, he was a band director too, and his primary focus was jazz. He was a jazz saxophonist. Jazz is an art form, and it was established by African Americans here, all over the country, but primarily in New Orleans, Louisiana. Of course, we have some in Harlem and things like that. Um, to me, jazz performers are very special because they compose on the spot. When you're playing jazz music and specifically swing, it's all about if you're able to get your music to swing back in the day. I know if you are familiar with Duke Ellington's "It Don't Mean a Thing If It Ain't Got That Swing," do what. You don't look it up in Google. It's a very fun piece. But as essentially where jazz really started, swinging and playing a lot of swing in that type of genre. Um, and concert band, I try to get my students, even though we aren't fortunate enough to have a jazz band here at Vista Heights, I still try to program music within the concert band that's jazz influenced, so that we can at least get exposed to some of the things that are out there. Um, we have so many great, and it's so funny now because if you really study music history, you see how it's evolved from being heavily classical to using a lot more jazz elements, even with the modern day classical composers. I think Igor Stravinsky was the first one to really um, boldly try to use jazz in a few of his band compositions. Um, yeah, so yeah, jazz is, and it's a more popular form, and it's evolved so many times, and in so many ways. You have Latin jazz, you have um, funk. It's just so many subdivisions within jazz. So yeah.
Thanks to Mr. William for explaining your thoughts on what jazz is. In my experience with this question, it tends to make even professional musicians stumble, but they all say that jazz is a combination of different styles and culture. Let's finish off with some Ellen Do. Be safe. Thank you for tuning in to those themed thoughts. And remember, it don't mean a thing if it ain't got that swing. Don't mean a thing if it ain't got that swing. Do I. It don't mean a thing. All you gotta do is sing. Do I. It makes a difference if it's sweet or hot. Just give that rhythm everything you got. Oh, it don't mean a thing if it ain't got that swing. Do I.